Let's go. Let's go. You think
Yeah.
you're ready?
Yeah, but we need the chat up. Looks like Aim High's here and Diana. Hey, Aim
Hi,
High.
welcome.
What's we were just chatting. What's OITC? Don't know what that is. How are you guys doing? Did you have a good week?
My brain goes into this weird thing sometimes when we're on doing our live show and I'm waiting for a response.
I know, like.
Is she going to answer or what? Not knowing that they can't hear us.
Yeah.
Or we can't hear them. Jeez, my hair's a wreck today.
Hey Trish, how are you? Hey Do.
Oh, out in the country.
Out in the country? Okay. Is that a TV show or another channel? You guys see my beans I got strung up? I'm drying. It's my first year ever growing those Scarlet Runner beans, so I'm hoping that they dry okay. Hey Kelly.
Yeah, they said out in the country, some other channel.
Okay, I'll have to check them out.
Yeah, I didn't know somebody else did live streams at 9 o'clock on Tuesdays.
Don't go. You're going to mess me up again. He's wanting to go look and see who they are.
No, I'm not going to go there. I'm just checking on something.
Okay.
It messes you up when you can't see yourself.
It does. Hey, Mindy. How are you? Hey, Jenny. Kelly. Hi. How's the weather down in Alabama? It's got to be warmer than here. So we talked about what we were going to talk about this week, and it was a really rainy week last week, so we didn't do a whole ton. And basically the stuff that got done, we already put a video out on, which was our video on yesterday from our weekend.
Our weekend in review videos, second week in a row.
Right. Hey, Leah and Cecil. Hi, Rosanna.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, Mike. Tracy with you?
She has her own handle now.
I know. So yeah, we thought, well, we had never really showed other than on Instagram things like putting our garden to bed. And as we were going through Google Photos, he usually just uses a quick search term. And we saw some of our pictures of our original garden when we started gardening and our suburban I would never call it a homestead back then, but it was when we were practicing skills before we actually dove in.
Which we did for 3 years, I think, before we got serious about moving.
Oh, sure, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Of learning how to can and harvesting other people's fruit on their fruit trees that they were just going to let go to waste. And
for some reason, I thought I couldn't do this unless I knew how to bake bread. So I made sure to teach myself how to bake bread and making jams, and we made salsa and jerky and stuff like that. So just like practicing the concepts of producing our own food.
Yeah, we'd even go to like the farmer's market and get like a whole like half bushel of tomatoes and jalapenos and green peppers and all this just so we could take it home and make salsa and can it.
Yeah.
Just to learn the process so that someday if we ever have our own garden where we have like this abundance of food coming in, we need to be able to preserve it. So.
And I would say around here, going to the farmer's market to buy your produce to preserve isn't very affordable. Like the cost savings aren't there. So, you know, as somebody just going into that lifestyle, I'm like, man, I'm not sure this homesteading thing is going to be like this dent in my budget that I'm looking for. But this year I can officially say, like, I put up a ton of green beans for the cost of a couple packets of seeds. So definitely worth it.
Well, now you have a different mentality to where we have so much food coming in sometimes that you consider it free.
Yeah, right.
Oh, look at all this free food.
Yeah, it does feel free. Isn't that funny? So Dew is in Oregon. I love Oregon.
We were there.
Gosh, it's been
3 or 4 years ago, 5
no, I
years
think
ago.
it's been 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Coos Bay.
Coos Bay, yeah.
And we are in a new place tonight. We are not sitting on our living room floor.
No.
With our backs up against the part of the couch that you normally sit on. We decided to do something different. We moved to our dining room table.
Yep.
And our kitchen's back there.
Yeah, I think some people's farmers markets can be really affordable, but ours around here, sometimes you can get good deals, but for the most part, I mean, I think to get good deals, you have to really buy in bulk. Like I bought the one guy out this year of his cherry tomatoes because my cherry tomatoes didn't do good, and I think I got a decent deal.
Yeah, and last year we talked to John the Bee Man. Then we almost buy him out of his pear tomatoes or something.
Yeah, or the Roma tomatoes.
Romas, yeah. And I feel good buying from John because I know he grows all of his own stuff. And there's some other farmers markets like the one that my mom goes to up by the airport.
Yeah, you're not quite sure where that stuff's coming from.
And I think a lot of it comes from that produce depot in Detroit.
Okay. Where it probably gets shipped in from somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Heaven's Gate.
I can't read.
Okay, so anyway, on that topic, I thought we'd show you. Thanks. I thought we'd show you kind of how we started out in gardening. So this was 4 years ago now, something like that. And I started out the first year with just one raised bed, and then we added to it the second raised bed. And I just fell in love with gardening. It was my very first attempt ever being successful at it. That was just another view of our home where we lived. Like you can see the houses, how close they are together. It was your typical neighborhood. And something that Todd was reminding me why it's relevant to our channel is I often talk about even here on the property, even though we have 7 acres, my garden space is really just a 40 by 40 garden space that's filled with raised bed and ground beds. And so I often encourage people, just find a little spot in your backyard and make that your garden space. And it's doable. I mean, we had fresh lettuce and tomatoes coming out of our ears all year, and zucchini coming out of our ears.
We almost grew tomatoes better in that little 4x4 bed when we first started than we have here.
Right.
Jump off high, welcome.
In Hay Food Forest. Hi, Kathleen. Whoops, did I miss something? No, I think I showed that, didn't I? That was just my carrots. So I had a lot of fun. I grew carrots and herbs and tomatoes and onions and just basic stuff just to practice.
Yep, and that was when you had just read Mel's book on square foot gardening. And so we built literally exactly 4 foot by 8 foot beds, and we used mason line string, and we ran string across it. So it was sectioned off into actual 1 foot by 1 foot sections.
I followed the book.
And she would put
literally did.
Onions in this square and carrots in this square and onions in this one, and it worked out. It worked out well.
But now it's like those strings were in my way last year. I'm like cutting them all off. I'm like, no, because now I'm following more of a lot of the practices that M.I. Gardner teaches on his channel about high intensity gardening in the raised bed. And it was just more in my way than helpful at that point. I had already gotten the basics and the gist of it. So I guess I didn't need those rulers anymore.
And we have a little bit more. We have more beds now, too, in that you can set aside a whole half of a bed just for carrots or 3/4 of a bed just for carrots. And in high-intensity garden, the whole thing, where before we only had so much space, so you had to be a little more deliberate about what you were planting where.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys ever plan on moving up to the cabin? It is part of our retirement plan, and it's not anything that we would live there permanently. We would spend seasons there. I wouldn't mind doing a full year just to say that we did it, because the way that it's situated, there's not really a road back to it. It's basically a 2-track trail, and it's not maintained.
It's a U.S. Forest Service road,
Mm-hmm.
basically a trail that's used by the U.S. Forest Service to get back there and do inspections and
Take care of things.
animal
Yeah.
counts
Mm-hmm.
and inventory the butterflies that are endangered back in that area. And so it's not plowed in the winter.
Right.
It's not very well maintained. Like this weekend when we're going up, I'm expecting the trail to be pretty rough going back because you start to get in hunting season.
Oh yeah, it gets really tore up.
The part of the trail that's public gets a lot of traffic, and then there's the private part of the trail. And even that gets pretty rough sometimes just from our neighbors going back there, back and forth with their big trucks.
Mm-hmm. So, like I said, I think we would love to at least do like a late spring, summer through fall stay at the cabin. Absolutely.
And in the winter, if you get a lot of snow, the only way you're getting in or out is snowmobile.
Or snowshoeing bag.
Or snowshoe, yeah.
Mm-hmm. We did that once. I don't know if we have clips because we have a lot of cabin clips to share with you because that's our plans this weekend is to go to the cabin and just to show you guys a little bit more about kind of what it's like up there and what we do. But so thanks for asking. It's a good segue. But sticking on the garden topic, another thing that we did a lot of that I should have really did a video on, but it was probably one of those rush moments where rain was coming or something and I just had to get stuff done. But we focused on just putting the gardens to bed.
Good job. Roseanne, our cabin's about 3.5, 4 hours away from our house.
Yeah, sometimes with traffic it can even be 5 hours. It just depends. So I'm just talking through my process of putting my gardens to bed. I'm sure everyone does it a little bit differently, but Todd got me last year for my birthday the broad fork. So I'll go through, because it does get compacted over the season. I'll go through and broad fork it all, and that's kind of what's showing the results of after I broad forked it.
Someone's calling. Sorry.
And then this is just showing the kind of final stages of amending the bed. And I'll amend it. I will tell you, I don't do any soil testing, and I know that I should to know that what it needs. And I probably don't do it because I'm intimidated by it, to be honest with you. But I'll throw on some bone meal, some lime, and just a little bit of lime. Some wood ash from just our bonfire pit. Some trifecta from In My Gardener. And then I do a really heavy top dressing of compost from our chicken run. So that's what that picture kind of shows. And then Todd knows not to mow this huge section of the property back there by the garden come close to fall, so I can use the push mower and the mulching in the bag so I can get all the leaves and grass clippings to mulch it out. So that's just kind of what that picture is. And then there's a finished bed. So then when spring comes around, he always throws me out.
Never mind. I need another computer over here.
Yes,
because
you do.
People are asking questions. I wanted to shoot Tangi and Jack a link to Mel's book.
Oh, okay. I'm just catching up on comments too. What garden method do you use? Again, I need to look up since we're doing raised beds. Okay, so it's Mel Bartholomew's Square Foot Gardening. And if I had the book in the house, I'd hold it up and show you. It's just out in my garden shed. And I followed it like it was my Bible the first year, and I had crazy success. And then I told you guys, I think at some point in time, I did this experiment, the row that I'm on right now with Ruth Stout. And I only had that row, but I expanded it, which you can see down the opposite fence line, the fence line behind me, and then the front fence line. So basically all my square beds are now surrounded with wood chip paths and then huge roof stout beds. And I need to tell you guys how I got all that mulch. So I'm part of I should join every state's homesteading Facebook page. So I'm part of like a few homesteading Facebook groups. One of the ones I really appreciate, we have a Michigan one. And Lisa Sutton from Sutton's Days is one of the moderators. Anyway, somebody posted that maybe we were talking about putting our gardens to bed at the time, and that he never buys like pine shavings for his chicken run, anything that you would need mulch for his garden, nothing. All he does is he looks around and picks up people's grass clippings from their front yard that they would set out in the bags, and we did that quite a few times in Rockwood even.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when we lived
I would send Abigail across the street and say, go pick up Mr. Joe's bag of leaves.
Leaf bags, yeah.
Leaf bags.
They get that with their push mowers, and they would push mow all their leaves, and then they dump it all in the bags, and they trash or yard waste pickup day would come. And they put like 12 bags of mulched leaves out on the front of their curb, and we would go steal them.
Right, I would go get them. But out here in the country, that doesn't occur. People burn their leaves and stuff. And another thing, raked into a huge, basically, hay pile, and they don't do anything with it. So I called him up and said, hey, can I have some of your mulch back there? And it's a huge, huge pile that's been sitting there for probably a month now, and so it's pretty heavily compost in the composting process already. So I took the 4-wheeler back and forth at least 7 times, and that's how I got that amount of mulch. I'm still going to go back and get more to put in the chicken run for the winter.
Nice deep.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to get about 18 inches of that.
Because I took a ton of compost out of my chicken run area this year, and that's basically what I use my chickens for. They give me eggs and they give me compost, and so I really harvested a ton of compost out of my chicken run this year. So I need to put enough material back that I can get the same amount of compost out of there next year. Hey, Allison and Randy, good to see you. Not see you, but hear from you.
So Gant had a question up there.
Okay.
Mike was asking if we had any fails this year, gardening fails.
Yes, I can't grow beets at all. Cannot. Tried last year, tried this year, can't. I mean, honestly, if I get a leaf this big, that's about all I get. So I really don't know what I'm doing wrong. And then I think another fail is my lettuce did amazing, both my spring crop, and when I say lettuce, it's things like, your variety lettuces, your spinaches, your kales, things like that. They did really, really well, but I never seem to take the opportunity to harvest them and I think it's because I have less kids, and so I'm making less sandwiches and less salads for lunches and stuff. So I think next year I'm just not going to do a whole bed of lettuces, and I'm going to stick to something smaller, so that it's just as I need, I'll go out there and get some. But that's a good question. I had one unplanned success to kind of stay on the topic. I didn't expect to get a sweet potato harvest like I did. And I didn't get a sweet potato harvest out of the whiskey barrel planters that I purposely planted the sweet potatoes in. Like nothing. I mean, like I'd have like little stringy roots. But I had like 4 extra starts, and I just dumped them in the root stout bed area, and I got amazing sweet potatoes out of there. So that's where I'm going to grow my sweet potatoes next year.
fruit stout,
Yeah, definitely.
sweet potatoes, and regular potatoes.
And I'm going to do my peas, the tomatoes, the sunflowers, and the corn, and the green beans, all in the Ruth Stout beds next year. Was there any other questions that we missed?
No, I was distracted myself a little bit, but
So I get all my coffee grounds from my work group. They know to save all the coffee grounds for me, so I get at least probably a canister of coffee grounds a week. And I just took maybe 5 out to the blueberry row, and I amended all the blueberries. I have a couple rhododendron and a lot of azaleas around the property, so I amended those with all the blueberries, or with all the
coffee grounds.
Mm-hmm. So I think the only thing that we specifically did for a fall garden was I did a fall lettuce bed again. With the intent, what I really wanted was more spinach to freeze. And honestly, a few times I've gone out there, there's plenty for me to pick: spinach, kale, lettuces, and I always have something else on my mind. So it's doing really, really well. I just haven't taken time to harvest anything.
Oh, the fall lettuce bed?
Yeah.
Oh, right. And that got eaten down to little nubs by rabbits.
Mm-mm.
Grasshoppers?
Grasshoppers.
We think it was grasshoppers.
Grasshoppers destroyed my fall lettuce bed, and I was bummed. One thing I've never talked much about, but we get some pests. So we get rabbits, we get Japanese beetles. We have like the squash borer beetles, and grasshoppers were horrible this year. And I don't sweat any of it.
We did.
Well, I was upset.
Like the Japanese beetles, like last year, we were upset about them. And we put out Japanese beetle traps.
And I think it just made the situation worse.
Right.
So this year, I'm like, I'm just going to plant extra. I would go out there. If there's Japanese beetles on my green beans, I'd kind of just shake the trellis. And then they eventually go away. Now, the squash borer beetles, I would try to smash them. I think somebody told me to go spray them with dish soap, and I did. Otherwise, I was just like, you know what? I planted like so many pumpkin plants. I ended up getting the amount of pumpkins I needed. Oh, that's cool. I'd love to have a grow room, Leah. Could your soil be too acidic for your beets? I'm sure I would know if I tested it, and I need to just do that one time and figure out if that's the problem. I honestly don't know. Okay, so let's move. We're about halfway in, huh? So you want to move into cabin weekend? Are you guys have any other thoughts on gardening?
Yeah, we'll give a sec just in case something else gardening before we switch topics.
So it sounds like other people have had problems with those squash bugs too.
Yeah. Southwest side of the state. We are a southeast Michigan.
Yeah, lower southeast corner.
So like way down.
Yeah, right over there. You're right that way.
Way over here.
Yeah.
It's like trying to shave in the mirror.
Just not far over the Ohio border. I call it the ugly side of the state.
Yeah, our cabin, on the other hand, is on the opposite side of the state. It's basically go from here right up in this area.
Mm-hmm.
Chosen Southwest.
Oh no, really?
Oh no.
I see your comment, Mindy. That's terrible.
I love your
We love your moose
moose
videos.
videos on your
Mhm.
Instagram story.
You're so blessed to have all that kind of wild nature just around to see. Okay. I've had success growing sweet potatoes in straw bales, but I tried it this week. Got nothing new. I think that they must just I know what the problem was when I tried to plant the sweet potatoes in the oak barrels, because when I tried to just dig in there, that soil really got compacted very, very badly. And when they were in the root stout garden beds, they just had so much room to just naturally grow and form. I didn't have any bad bends in them or twist and stuff, so it was nice. So Food Forest said that wood ash kills squash bugs. Good to know. Do you know, so Food Forest, do you know if they would prevent them coming from the, so say you went out there like once a week and you just sprinkled some wood ash around your squash plants before the bugs even came. I wonder if that would help. But then at the same time, wood ash could, if you did that all the time, I think it would mess up your pH.
Mess up the pH,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. That's one of the things I was thinking about, not to totally segue into cabin just yet, is when we get to the cabin this weekend, one of the first things we need to do is clean out the chimney. And we should probably do an ash clean out of the wood stove.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We can take all that wood ash and put it out in the garlic bed.
Yeah. So that's an experiment we're trying this year, is to free up space here at the homestead. Not like I have to. I could have just put another bed in somewhere. It's truly, truly an experiment. We're going to plant the garlic up at the cabin. So we've prepped a little pseudo raised bed just using some down trees that we had. And it's, I guess what we're testing is like the whole true back to Eden theory. And that is, nothing has ever been done on this little piece of land other than ferns grow there from time to time, a tiny bit of grass, but it's just leaves and leaves and leaves and leaves, composting, for hundreds of years, supposedly. So we're going to test the theory and say, does the purest sense of a back to Eden garden actually produce good results? Okay, night, Amy. Have a nice night. Don't get disgruntled with her. Hi, Carrie. How are you? Okay, so into cabin. It's been way too long since we've gotten to go. One of the things that we told ourselves is we try to get there no less than once a month. And it's just not happening for us right now. Well, Todd just worked an outage. This is just a little cute picture of the living room. We have a futon in there, so if we have extra company, they can stay with us. So the cabin is what, 20 by 20?
24 by 24.
24 by 24, and it'll sleep. We have like bunk beds, what we call the kids' room, and there's a cot, but you could put people on the floor. Then our bedroom is just a full-size bed, and then we have the full-size futon, so you could comfortably sleep, I think, 8.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the hand is a Michigan thing.
Oh, yes, absolutely. It's shaped just like it, so it works perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Living room, yeah, we already showed. This is one of the things that I've absolutely fallen in love with when we're there. We're right on acreage at the cabin. Yes, we have about 10 acres, but we're surrounded by about 8,000 acres of national forest, so land is pretty unlimited to us. We're right on a branch of the White River, and it's a blue ribbon trout stream that also gets a really nice run of salmon and steelhead throughout the year. And I've really fallen in love with fishing there. I think the first 2 years we went to the cabin, I don't think I caught a single fish.
No.
And it was so frustrating. And you're trying to fish in this little river that's like 25 foot wide with trees everywhere and logs everywhere, and I'm trying all the traditional ways that I've grown up fishing, and none of it would work. I don't know how many lures I lost in the logs. And
it's funny too, because he'd be facing this direction fishing, and you'd hear a bloop in the back, like fish jumping, and so then he'd move to that spot, and then they'd be jumping over here. And there's just tons of, because it's a blue ribbon trout stream. It's protected, so they, once a tree falls in the river, you're not supposed to remove it. And so there's lots of deadfall and things like that around that make it challenging to fish.
But when you do fish, it can definitely be rewarding.
Yeah, those are just beautiful fish.
So one of the ways that we do spend a lot of our time when we're there is relaxing. I really stink at relaxing. I'm just not good at it. I think I've come to the realization that I can either work and I got to be doing something, or I got to be sleeping. There's not like a relax point in between.
Yeah,
like if it's raining outside and I come in the house and sit down and try to relax, I fall asleep.
Yeah.
So I don't really know how to relax, but we really try hard when we're at the cabin, other than doing what we need to do as far as keeping the land maintained, raking our leaves, making sure we have enough firewood, is to relax. And we do a lot of campfires. We do almost all of our cooking of meat over the fire. We do a lot of that.
Yeah.
Watch the trees grow, fish.
I'm just laughing at my Crocs. You'll never see me in Crocs except at the cabin. I promise. For you Croc lovers, that's great. My daughter's one, but I won't be caught dead in them unless I'm at the cabin.
And one of the things that, so my father is, he's been a golfer his whole life. He golfed. That was like his hobby until he retired. And he started to get more into fishing. And absolutely loves it and hates it at the same time. He gets so frustrated. I don't know how many fishing poles he's broke and things he's lost. And he can have a miserable time fishing, but he can have a really great time. And one of the things that have always been on his bucket list was he wanted to catch a salmon. And we do have some pretty decent salmon runs at the river up at the cabin. So it was about 3 years ago we started going up.
Yeah.
Every fall, a trip with just me and my father. We would go up to the cabin in the fall. We'd salmon fish, or we would go up in the early spring, like February, March, April time frame, and steelhead fish, one or the other. And a couple of years ago, we were actually able to cross off an item. Oh, where'd I go? I was talking about something.
That's okay. There it is.
There we go. No.
Oh, jeez. You're giving all the secrets
There we
away.
go. Finally.
Yeah, that's a beast of a salmon or something or another.
So that fish was, yes, bucket list accomplished. My dad caught his salmon. It was really late in the year, too. A lot of the fish that we did see, if you see like towards the tip of the tail, it's starting to get white. They'll even get nastier looking than that right before they die. They'll get white marks all over their sides, and
that's
their
not,
mouth starts to get really like hook shaped. And
yeah, and this picture's not at our cabin. This is at the main branch of the river in town. But we'll see these in our river. They just, once they get up that far where we are, they're already in what do you call it? The phase where they're laying their eggs. Spawning
yes.
phase, and they're not eating anymore, so you can't catch them.
Mm-hmm. Unless you really make them angry.
Oh, okay.
That's one of the tricks.
Is it? Okay.
So this picture right here, this is one of the This is before you even get to the trail on one of the roads going back to the cabin, and it's got a nice little hill right there. And the first time we went out fishing, I think this was from our first trip, we just stopped the truck, we got out, we took a picture. And it's kind of been a tradition for us in that every year now when we go back, regardless of what the weather's going to be, if it's spring, if it's fall, we do the same type of thing. And was it last year when we went in the early spring to do steelhead fishing? I think we woke up. I think we went up Thursday, Friday, Saturday morning. We woke up, 8 inches of snow on the ground.
But they fished in that cold weather in the river. They just crazy.
Yep. So yeah, exactly the same spot in the road, little bit different camera angle, but
different seasons all completely. So it's just one of my favorite times of the year to go is fall because it's so beautiful. The only thing that's ever sad for me is one of my all-time favorite plants in the world is ferns. And this forest and our property specifically is just a carpet of ferns, and they're always dead at this time of the year. So it's like, oh, I have to wait till next summer for my ferns to come back.
Yeah, and it's the same for you in the spring when you're disappointed. Hey, my ferns aren't here yet.
Yeah, right.
Am I on too fast? I talk too fast sometimes.
Oh, it's fine. Just go on to the
Just
trail.
make sure if I breathe, catch up a little bit.
I'm going to just, yeah, that's fine. I'll go on. So this is the fall, what should be seen this weekend. You're looking down from our front porch, and we've kind of shaped a little trail that leads down to the river. But it's just a blanket of leaves. It's funny because the first couple of years we chuckled at ourselves because we're raking the forest, but we do try to keep it somewhat manicured. So we'll take up, like his dad has one of those backpack leaf blowers, and we'll just blow off the trails and the front porch and things like that that need to be done.
So have we seen any bears at our cabin? In food forest permaculture, thanks for joining.
All right.
It looks like you're taking off. But have we ever seen any bears at our cabin? We have not personally seen any bears at the cabin, but a couple miles down the road, one of them got hit by a car last fall. So there's definitely bears in the area. I think they're pretty afraid of people and noises and try to steer clear of us as best they can.
And in the area that we're in, that's on the gated off from the main forest road, there's I think 7 property owners back there. And the gentleman that's closest to us, we've gotten to know him quite well, and he said he once saw paw prints on his beach at his river. So I think that they're around. It's just not a heavy populated area for the black bear in our area. Now, once you go further north or over to the Huron forest versus we're in the Manistee forest, I think they're a little thicker. But that first year, every time I went to the outhouse, I'd say, "Go bear, go bear," because I didn't know. And I'm not taking any chances. I want him to know I'm coming. He would laugh at me.
I would laugh at you,
yeah. Oh, Rosanna, are you leaving? Good night. So that's, I think everything that we had from the cabin in the fall. That last clip I had up when he was talking about something else it's this huge bluff that's way high over the river. And it's a hike for us to go there, but it's like a 7-minute walk. If that, just down the driveway and up. But it's a lot higher than where we could go to a ledge over our river. It's just a pretty lookout view. There's no property around, and it's just a nice place to sit and take in the sounds. We did some of Abigail's senior pictures there this year. Almost all of her senior pictures this year were done up at the cabin. Yeah. Were you going to share that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we do. We used to be, as far as the whole bear thing goes, we never really thought much of it. We didn't really think they were around. But once our neighbor said, okay, yeah, there's bear tracks right by the river, 200 feet from my cabin and
Mm-hmm.
200 feet from our cabin, and that one got hit down the road. We do carry some protection with us when we go on our hikes now,
Yeah.
just to be safe. And
Yeah, because I used to feel like super comfortable. Like I was never worried. I'd get up so much earlier than Todd. I'd make a cup of coffee and I'd kind of like walk the trail all the way out to the gate, which is about 2 miles, and walk back. And usually by the time I got back, he might be thinking about getting up. Um, and I, I, now that you say that, and we're talking about it, I don't do that anymore. And it right now it's making me sad that I probably am not comfortable doing that. And I am not a practiced shooter of guns, whatever you call people that are very good, firearmed, trained. He's been teaching me some up at the cabin, but I'm by no means comfortable to carry a sidearm or anything on me. I'd probably hurt myself before I heard something trying to attack me. Oh, would you just link to the Olive Sheep River retreat?
yeah, almost Homestead. Welcome,
Welcome.
the new name to me.
So tell them about what you just linked, honey. Oh, it's in the description above.
Oh yeah, so we used to so shortly after 3 years ago, 4 years ago, before we even thought about doing YouTube that we have now, 1870s Homestead. When we started going to the cabin, we would record little videos and turn them into videos, and we would post them on a completely different channel, the Olive Sheep River Retreat, which is our nickname for the cabin. Um, so I linked to that other YouTube channel if you want to go check it out. I think there's like 4 videos, maybe 5 videos that we posted a few years ago.
It was more of a creative outlet for you. It was nothing ever taken seriously.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I think my foray into photography was starting to decline, and was needed some form of creativity. And
yeah, they're beautiful.
Let's see what I can make out of these videos that I shot on my cell phone. Right. It was all cell phone shot.
I don't think any of them have any voice in them either. They're all just cinematic.
No talking.
Yeah.
Too nervous.
Yeah, but they're absolutely beautiful videos from a creativity and experiencing almost like you're there in the sounds. It's really nice. Okay, so Kathleen, yes, the black garlic's still going. It's still cooking. I will tell you, though, it's been a significant drop in the smell and the aroma. Probably the day 3 through day 6, you got within 25 feet of the cabin and you like hit not the cabin, but the garden shed that the rice cooker's in. You got hit by a garlic wall. And I didn't mind it. I love the smell of garlic. But when I went out there today, I noticed that the smell is definitely not as strong. So I'm sure that's just part of the process. But it will go through this Sunday.
Sunday it should be done, yep.
So when we get back from the cabin, we'll be that'll be one of the first things that we'll have to attend to.
So part 2 of that will definitely be out at some point next week.
It's not that I don't like packing a gun, it's that I'm not comfortable with it. But I can be honest with you, I don't know that I would ever be comfortable with it. I'm very shy around the thought process. I'm thankful that Todd's able to protect me, and that I have cops and other people around me to protect me. I'm nervous. I know my vision is not well enough that I can shoot.
You always have issues with that.
I do.
Do I keep my glasses on? Do I take my glasses off?
Because I can't see through the sights and I don't know. So I think it's just I'm not comfortable with it. Hey, Heather and John, how are you guys? Hey, Black Label.
Hey guys, welcome.
Hey, Jim. Thanks for joining.
Jim from Texas. Jim, I think you replied to one of our videos recently and said that you lived in Michigan for a long time and now you're in Texas. I remember your comment.
Oh, I love Oceana County. I was trying to convince so much the Hollers. If you don't follow the Holler Homestead, when they were in Michigan and touring around, a lot of us were giving them ideas on where to live. And I basically said anywhere in Oceana County.
Well, Oceana County is where our cabin is.
Right. Well, that's what he was saying his cabin was. And just it's the soil and the orchards and all the spaces around there. Just, I love it. And you're only 30 minutes from Lake Michigan and you can't beat that. So, all right. Well, we're going to give you one funny.
Well, we can at least tell the story behind this one.
Oh, okay.
So we did talk earlier about winters. And these are just trails. They're not maintained. They're not plowed. And we decided one year in February, let's go to the cabin. And even if we got to walk, if we got to hike back, it's about 3 miles. We brought some sleds. We found some neighbors who lived off of one of the main roads. We went and knocked on their door and said, "Hey, can we park in your driveway for the weekend? Because we're going to walk to our cabin back there in the woods." And they looked at us like we were crazy. But they were like, "Sure, we don't care." So we parked there. We loaded up all of our gear on sleds, and we hiked back 3 miles across one creek, which was quite an adventure in itself, of crossing.
With 3 dogs at the time. So we had both of the little wiener dogs, and we had a large Australian Shepherd. So I had Mika, like if you picture those baby wraps that people carry babies in, I fastened one to carry Mika in because she would have froze to death after 3 miles walking through that.
So 3 miles, we finally made it to the cabin. The snow was maybe 3 or 4 inches while we were walking back. But then the next day, we woke up and it's 43 degrees. And the next day, it was 44 degrees. And all the snow ended up melting. So by the time we hiked out, we had a hard time pulling our sled. We were basically pulling our sleds through the mud. But
while
we were there, we definitely had fun, and the kids really enjoyed it. They didn't necessarily like the hike, but they liked the end result of being at the cabin in the winter and taking the dogs. And
I think they liked the whole adventure of it all.
Right.
And we have really big hills on the property, so I've often thought about just trying to find some used like cross-country skis or something that if we're there in the winter and I want to try to not break my neck but play, I could go put some on and do some like smaller little slopes. But we had the sleds from pulling all of our gear. So me, Abigail, and my son Cameron went out and tried sledding down some of our hills that we had never cleared any trees to be out of the way for us. So we have a little clip of Abigail sledding down one of the hills, which is mostly leaves with a little bit of snow on top. But it was funny, and we still laugh to this day about it. And I think that's one of the things I look forward to the most in the future is when I do have grandkids and they can come up and do all those fun things. But show them the...
Oh, sure. So hopefully let's mute us and play that video. Hopefully the sound works. We're kind of new to doing videos on this thing.
Just put your heels out. So you can just leave it run for a second. So it was so funny because this is a tiny, tiny clip of a much larger video. She tried growing down this hill like 7 times, and every single time hit the same tree, By the end of it, I'm dying laughing, and I was just about to pee my pants. Like, I could not walk back up that hill. It was so funny. But
I think there was a bunch more videos, and one of the other ones was the one where she went down and hit a tree, got back on and went down and hit another tree, but I couldn't find that video.
Yeah, it was a hoot. And then we've got one, like, Cameron could never even make it down the hill. He'd get halfway, and for some reason his rear end would get caught up just enough to flip him over on that sled every single time. I successfully made it, however. So, did you ever try it?
Yeah, of course.
Did you? Yeah, it's fun. But that's our story for this week. If you guys have any questions, let us know.
Yeah, we have a little bit of time left.
Yeah.
I don't really want to go into too much of what we have coming up because I want to leave it open-ended with the weekend at the cabin coming up.
Sure, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But definitely next week, the results of that black garlic video will definitely be in. So that'll be coming up for sure next week.
I'm sure we'll do a weekend in review again.
We will have a weekend in review coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we can get it out on Monday like we have been.
Yeah, so, I mean, things are definitely slowing down around here. This evening I finished canning all the turkey broth from processing the turkeys over the weekend. But the heavy harvest and heavy lift and getting everything prepped for winter, like the only big thing that we still have left to do is get the straw. So we still haven't gotten our straw that I need just for bedding for the goats and bedding for the pigs. And I use it sometimes for the chicken run if it gets too mucky in there. So we don't hunt. If somebody gave us deer meat, we would gladly can it. And we don't hunt because we don't want to hunt. We don't hunt because I want to do my hunter safety course and I want to practice shooting better, or at least being a good observer and how to observe, deer habits and stuff. We have a really nice section of property in the back that we could literally hunt right here on our property. And we have game trails out there, our game cameras, so we know that they're here on the property. But I would want to do my hunter safety course first.
And a lot of it's time.
Yeah.
So Linda Bird Rudder, which is actually from Laura, southwestern Michigan. Hi, welcome.
Hi, welcome, Linda. C&A&J Farm. Nice to meet you. Oh, it's so nice to meet you. I told Todd all about you when I got back, how sweet you guys were. That's so nice that you're here. I hope life's going really well with you.
4 out of hives without queens. Where are you at, Black Label? Did they say where they were from?
Not today, they haven't.
That stinks.
Well, can they survive over the winter without queens?
No.
No? Oh, okay.
Very, very unlikely. Well, there's basically, even if they still had brood and still had eggs to try to make a new queen, there's no drones anymore for her to mate with.
Oh, true.
All the drones have been kicked out for a while now.
True.
Well, depending on where you live, I don't really know. Here in Michigan, if you don't have a queen right now, you're pretty much screwed for the winter.
Oh, he's in Oklahoma.
Yeah, probably about the same. You guys are maybe a little warmer.
Yeah, I'm sure they're a little warmer. So my father's family's all from the Tulsa area. So I used to be in Oklahoma a lot growing up.
We definitely learned a lot about bees this year, though. More than I thought I would learn. There's way more to it. I mean, you just can't buy some bees and stick them in your backyard. And they might survive, and they might overwinter, and you might get some honey. but you're just kind of letting nature take its course at that point. You're kind of a bee owner instead of a beekeeper. But we definitely learned a lot this year.
Yeah, I remember when we first got into it, when we would pull a frame, I remember saying, okay, I don't even know what I'm looking at. I need to go get our book out because I don't know what of this is that, like there's the brood. What do they call it now? But my mind slipped.
There's the brood and the larvae and the eggs and the pollen, and then there's drone brood, which looks different than normal worker brood.
Right, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, so then we've got a really good book that has pictures and a lot that help you identify what you're looking at. So I pulled that book out often throughout the season. He was much more hands-on than I was.
And one of the other big things that I would highly recommend to anybody, if you're not keeping bees now and you're thinking about it, there's local Facebook groups for just about every area of the country for beekeepers. So there's a Southeast Michigan beekeepers group, and I joined that, and a few other Michigan beekeeping groups. You don't always have those groups. The benefit doesn't always come from, I have a question, I need to ask it. The benefit comes from really just reading. Anytime anybody has a problem, read what their problem was and read all the responses and just bank that information in the back of your head. Even if you're not having the problem now, you might have the problem 3 years from now, and you have some of that nugget back in your head that you can rely on. So
yeah, of course, some of that takes a grain of common sense. Like any group, like I have this spot on my face. What is it? It's cancer. It's psoriasis. It's bug bites.
Right.
It's this. It's that. So you have to kind of just disseminate all that information and take away what you want out of it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You have to go with there's some sayings about like ask 10 beekeepers a question about bees and you're going to get 10 different answers because everybody has their own take on it, but you can, by going through all the comments, you can get a pretty good consensus of.
And we have a bee expert in here right now. So Kaylee just joined from the farm on Quail Hollow.
Oh, cool. Hi, welcome.
So there's tons of great resources even here in the community that we've got some serious expert beekeepers that you can reach out to too. We were trained to be natural beekeepers 20 years ago by another Swedish man. The bees used to be so strong they're sad to meet now. Oh, I'll have to look. I don't know much myself about natural beekeepers or that training or philosophy. I'd have to look into it. I know it's something that we're debating between ourselves and having conversations about is just winter prep, and we do try to be pretty hands-off beekeepers. Feeding them in the spring and the fall as needed, splitting when needed, things like that. Watching for mites, but not treating for mites if they don't exist. And so now we're talking about winter prep, and they're basically in a pretty exposed pasture area that there's so many philosophies on protecting your bees in winter. Go the natural method and do nothing and let them survive because you want the strongest of a bee to survive. Or there's people that wrap their hives or insulate them. And so it's kind of one of those up and coming decisions that we kind of have to make. We're either going to do something or not. Okay, well, we have 1 minute left. I want to make sure I get a chance to say goodbye to all you guys. I really appreciate you all. You're just wonderful people. We love spending time with you. Don't ever hesitate to reach out to us at that 1870shomestead@gmail.com. We're on Instagram. Of course, you can always comment on our YouTube videos if you have any questions.
We have a Facebook page now too.
Oh yeah, we do have the Facebook page now too. So keep engaging with us. It's a lot of fun for us, and we really enjoy it. And how we stay motivated to do what we do. Because there are times, especially going into the winter season, I know there's going to be times that I'm just like,
what are we going to talk about? We didn't do anything. It's been snowing for the last 3 weeks.
Right. But we do have a lot of winter projects inside the house planned for this. I should say I have a lot of winter projects planned for the inside of the house for this winter to get ready for my son's wedding reception here next spring. So you'll see things changing behind us. So it'll be fun.
New paint. All right. Mike.
Thanks, Deborah.
Diana. Almost Homestead.
Kaylee. We just really enjoy all of you.
Yeah, really thanks for joining us. It means a lot.
Night, guys.
Bye-bye.